Hi everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Sure, we can.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. So I'll be on the full slideshow. So perhaps if anybody has a question, you could just stop me. I may not be on the chat because I'm on a full screen. So my name is Emmanuel Oke. I'm a product manager at Quick Check. Basically, just a quick panorama of my experience. I've had experience building products across EdTech and fintech. So basically, so if you have anything, you can just let me know if you want to know more about me. So today is basically talking about the customer development process. So in terms of the table of content here, we'll be talking about the understanding customer development, designing and running experiment, and also conceptualizing the solution itself. So I want us to quickly look at this and see which one is the best. Do we create the product before we discover the customer, or we have the customer discovery before the product creation? So I want us to quickly run this through our minds and see which one is the best, or both of them can go, or it all depends on the company you're working on, the company you're maybe presently in, or you want to go, or maybe the industry or the market. So at the end of this course, we'll be able to know if it is best to create the product before we begin to look for customers, or we look for customers first before we create the product. So I'll kickstart from the understanding the customer development. So, and let's look at it, let's conceptualize an hypothetical product here and say, okay, the product is PadiSafe. So the PadiSafe is a product to be created for university students. This is to help them save free cash. Students are to get help based on their contribution. Some will get zero interest, while others will be charged the lowest interest possible. So let's look at this product. Let's conceptualize it and see, okay, let's assume, okay, I'm a product manager, or the CEO or a founder of a company like this, and I want to go into the market. So the first thing, going back to the question we asked here, would it be that, okay, I create the product before talking about the customer, or I should look for the customers, discover them, know their needs, know what they want before I create the product? So let's keep this at the back of our mind and see how this would fit into how we can discover the customer for this product. It might be clear here that, of course, the customer here, they are university students, but when you go into the university, of course, you have different personas in the university. So it may not be clear to say, okay, we are targeting all the university students, obviously. So let's look at why the need for customer discovery. So customer discovery is basically one of the steps to product building. So there's product development process. So the first step, so which would answer the first question we asked, if we are to develop the product before customer discovery, or customer discovery before the product. So it is clear here that the first step to creating a product is customer discovery. So, and of course, we have other steps which would be the validation of the customer, creating the creation of the customer themselves, and also the product building, which is basically where designs come, where the developers, with the software engineers, if you are dealing with a software product, if it is maybe hardware product, then you begin to look at how you can build prototype and all that. But here, our focus is the customer discovery process. So we're focusing on only the customer discovery for now. Sorry, great. So talking about that we have steps to customer discovery, basically 4 steps. So, and one is creating the hypothesis for that customer, and then the second is testing that hypothesis, then testing the product itself, and verifying, iterating, and also expanding on the customer base. So what would be that, okay, to create a product, you first need to discover who would use the product. So it would not be nice to create a product, then start looking for who would use the product. So now in doing that, the first thing is you hypothesize and say, okay, who would be the persona of the person that will use this product? Do I need to put them in segments and see they have different needs? So basically, it's a stage where you do more of the thinking, more of the research, right? So then you now talk about, okay, you need to test the hypothesis. So you were at the back end thinking about that person, but at this point it's still an hypothesis because it has not been tested. Although you may have the right approach to be using data to say, oh yes, you have a certain number of students in Nigeria, you may say, okay, you have admission of 500 students, or let's say 500,000 students in a higher institution. Okay, in a university, we have, let's say, about 200,000. Then, let's say in the last 5 years, we should have about 1 million students in universities. So basically, at this point, you are trying to say, okay, who would these people be? What would be their age, the demographic? What would be the gender? What would be their financial capacity? Would they be the one to pay for the product? What would be the pricing? So basically, here you are trying to create an hypothesis around the user or the customer, as the case may be. So then test the hypothesis, then you have the product. So at this point, at the point of testing the product, it means you have something maybe as simple as MVP. It may be as simple as the proof of concept to take to them and say, okay, this is what it is. And the proof of concept could be as low the fidelity, like even having drawings on books and just trying to show them that, okay, this is what I'm trying to build. But at the end of the process for the customer discovery, you should be able to verify, iterate on what you have on step 1 to 3, and also, if possible, expand on the current customer base you have, because we now discover that at the end of the day, you have more customer than you ever imagined from testing the product, right? So then after this product discovery, of course, you may now proceed to the customer validation, where there will be the next step, where talking to the customer will now be the core part of the development process. So let's take this one by one, which would be the hypothesis creation, which basically would be running from what the product will look like, what the customer problem is, what are you trying to solve for, because at the end, the key part of customer discovery is problem. So not the solution, but the problem. So you have to focus on, okay, what is the problem of the customer at that point? Then you talk about the distribution and pricing, how much would they be able to pay? Would they be able to pay? There are some products that your primary user, they are not the one paying for the product. So you have to know, okay, who is going to pay for this product? My primary user, are they going to be the one to pay for this product, or other people will pay for the product? I'll give an example. So if you're building a product for a primary school student, for example, or primary school pupils, you would know that the pupils are not the one to pay. It should be the parents. So meaning that you have to build your product usage around the student, while the payment around the parents. So you may want to also look at the demand creation. So there are times we've heard about talking about disruption. So it may be you are creating a demand, or you are disrupting the existing demand. So you may want the product may be in existence, and maybe other products are in existence, and you want to go in and disrupt that value chain. Or it may be that, okay, you want to create demand for that product, meaning that there are times that I'll give an example. When Facebook came, people were not using Facebook. So basically, Facebook created demand for that product, and the rest is history. So you need to also talk about the market type. What would be the market type? Would it be a developing market, new market? What would be the market size? You need to know what the market will be. And remember, these things are still under hypothesis. You are still creating a hypothesis. These are not real for now. Then you need to look into the competition. So who are the players currently in that space? So if you are into, let's say, edtech, you're into fintech, health tech, insurtech, and any of the products, or any of the ecosystem you need to know who are the competitors at that time, so that you know if you are going to piggyback in or you're going to be a leader, because obviously every product manager or every product team wants to create a product and that will be a leader in. Like I said, please, you can always stop me along the line if there's a need for you to do that. So here, basically, you need to make informed guessing. That is the hypothesis. So you are guessing. You don't really have the answer at this time. So, and how do you do that? you have to make research. You have to go into deep research, checking the market data. What is the market data available at that time? Process them into insight that you can derive a hypothesis from. Then you have to create hypothetical personas. So at this time, it's still hypothetical because you've not tested it to know that, okay, what you stated in those things, they are real. And then at this stage, what you do more will be more of writing than talking. So you are still within yourself. You've not gone out to really talk to people at this time. It's still you, maybe on your desk, trying to write down things, doing your research and all that. And for this, making decision should be backed by data. So it could be qualitative, it could be quantitative, but as much as you can, this process should be backed with data, and there are always data available in the public domain, and some you may have to pay to get those data. The next is the problem hypothesis testing. So here, of course, you've on your table, or in your house, you've created this hypothesis. This is a time to now go out and say, okay, this thing I've written down. How do I test them? And here it will be problem focused. And for here, make sure the problem exists anyway, and your hypothesis, because your hypothesis may be wrong. So at this point, the reason for testing is to make sure that those things that you've written down, those problems actually exist. And the basic question you'll be asking is, what would be the product? Who will be the customer? How much is the product? Because you need to answer this question at this stage. So you've written those things, the first phase, but now you have to give answers to them, talking to customer. Then what is the market size, type? Talking about the market size, it may not necessarily mean that you talk to customers to get that, but you can get a feel of how it will be by taking a sample of people to talk to. Then you can also validate that, okay, this is the market size I'm looking into. And it could also, and another question that you should be able to answer would be who are the current players. And here we're talking about the competition in that market, in the ecosystem. Who are the competitors that you'll be, of course, trying to fight, or maybe you are trying to disrupt and all that. So here, of course, the key part will be the problem presentation. You have to understand the customer, and also market knowledge is important here. So these three things are important at the stage of problem and hypothesis testing. You should be able to understand what the customer's problem is, what you should be able to present the problem also adequately, and also what the market at that time is. Then here we have the product testing. So after you've done your problem hypothesis testing, of course, at this point, you should have something that you can work with. It could be an MVP, which is the minimum viable product that you have. These days, we talk about the minimum lovable product. But today, we just focus on the minimum viable product. And the minimum viable product is basically that product that is just basic. So you don't, in the case of Fidelity that we talked about, it could be as easy as someone being able to transfer money from his bank account into the wallet, and that is basic. It's as simple as that. So, and okay, transfer to the wallet, and someone is able to also transfer to another person on that platform. Any other thing is added features to that, because even if you say, oh, they should be able to chat, they should be able to talk to themselves, then at the end of the day, the core value of that product for this case would be the ability of the of any user to take money from their, let's say, credit card, debit card, put it on their wallet. From their wallet, they are able to transfer to someone on the platform to help them on the platform. I'm talking about the case of the hypothetical product, the Paris we're talking about here. And for these, talking to potential customers is important. So at this stage, you should be able to understand the magnitude of your problem, because at this stage now, you're not just talking about the problem, but you'll be able to come up with something to show them, like, okay, can you make a transfer? Maybe it may be on a prototype. Then you'll be able to understand the pain, and trying to be able to know the kind of gains you want to create for the user at the end of the day. Then this stage, provide the first contact to the real customer. You should be able to also justify the return on investment at this stage. And also, like I said, creating an MVP is important at this stage. Then we have the problem product verification, which is the third stage of that customer discovery. So here, running through this, of course, you need to verify the product. So at this point, you remember that at the stage of product testing, so we've taken the product to the user. So now we've talked to the user, we understand them better at this point. So now we need to verify that, okay, this product can solve the problem that we've already hypothesized at the beginning. So then we verify the problem that yes, the problem actually exists, because the core part of this is solving a problem that doesn't exist. That is one of the easiest way for a product to fail, and nobody will use it if if you just put it at the back of your mind, hypotheses and all that, and you never tested, the problem may not exist, or you are solving for a problem that doesn't worth it, or the number of people having that problem is not enough in terms of market size to really drive return on investment, and which will be an issue proceeding with that. So at this point, you need to verify your business model, and business model here would be, oh, who will be the user, what kind of who will pay for this service, then how are we going to make profit, when are we going to make profit on this product, are we going to build this product for 10 years without making profit, and all that. Basically, at this point, you should be able to verify the business model you have, which will be focused majorly on return on investment, revenue, and all that. Then here you iterate. So after iteration here, you need to know if there's a go or no go. Go, no go would be, okay, do I still proceed with this product after all this, or I need to just kill the idea, or I need to go back again and start my process and verify to make sure that, yes, the problem or the product can actually solve the problem, basically at this point. So if there is a go, then of course you go to the next stage. But if there's no go, of course, you can kill the idea, or you start from the beginning again. It can be starting from the hypothesis stage, or it could be just still focusing on the problem product verification, where you now go through the process again. So some key steps of product problem validation here is the features and benefits. So at this stage, you should be able to say, okay, what are the core features of this product, and what will be the benefit to the user? So another thing will be the delivery schedules. So as product managers, of course, sometimes we are in charge of, depending on the size of the team, if you have a product, or if you're a product owner or a scrum master and all that, at the end of the day, you should be able to tell what are the delivery schedules, because you have stakeholders you need to communicate with and all that. Then here you need to talk about the IP and the ownership, so intellectual property and the ownership here. So how do you protect that? So because at this point, you've been able to validate that yes, you created a product and the problem actually exists. So you need to lock the IP, or else someone can take your product, go to the market, and perhaps may not be able to do anything at the end of the day. At this point, I don't know if you have any question before we move into designing and running experiments.
So, hello guys. So far, so good. They have heard him speak. And if you have any questions, as usual, drop it in the chat so that he'll pick it up from there. So drop your questions. You can drop your questions now. If there are no questions in the next 2 minutes, he'll continue. And maybe when there's a break.
Okay, so I will just continue. If, like I said, I'll be stopping intermittently because I'm on a full screen to really check if there are questions or not. Okay, thanks. Hopefully everybody understands what I'm trying to say here. So here we have designing and running experiments. So the core part of product is experiment, especially when you are dealing with new product, new market, startup. The core part is experiment, because it's easy. I guess, okay, good to go settings. So, so there are, like I said, the core part of startups, if you are going to, it may be even a full-fledged company, because of course startup is just it's stage one of building a company. So experiment is key, and experiment would mean that we need to test that the solution we have solves, or that the problem actually exists. And at the point of experiment, it could, like I said, it could be that, oh, you are working with a product that's already in existence, or you are working with a product that you just created, basically. So why experiment and experimentation? Of course, the experiment is perhaps that document, or and why that experimentation is the process you follow in making sure that you design a good experiment. And the simple reason for experiment is for also continually test hypotheses. And these hypotheses could be about the user, it could be about the product, it could be about the market. And it could be, the product could be, okay, you have two screens, you want to test that, oh, which one has more conversion? Because of course, most of us here that are product managers, or those of us who want to go into the space of product management, you will understand that testing, A/B testing, is core part of building product, and that is the core of experimentation. Large companies have been able to use this method to scale their products. Okay, I think someone, let me quickly address this. Someone initially, I think user persona is created after gathering. Okay, I'll come to that. So let me quickly address this. I think Faith mentioned, you mentioned hypothetical persona. Initially, I think user persona is created after gathering data, and qualitative and quantitative. It's from the real data. So, and that's why I call it hypothetical. So at this point, you need to create a persona. Of course, there's a stage of gathering data. We've talked about a point where you need to validate that user, because when the first time you created an hypothetical persona, so an hypothetical persona could be as basic as, these are the people I want to focus on, because this is a new product, or you are just coming into the market, so you don't understand anything. So that product is hypothetical because it is not the real. So it's after you've gathered that real data that you now go into the process of validating that, yes, or invalidating that that persona is real. But at the first initial stage, it's hypothetical. So you don't have that real persona. So, but from the data you gathered, then you now have the hypothetical persona. I don't know if I'm clear on that, Faith. So someone also asked, what is A/B testing? Faith, I don't know, you can also unmute yourself if you want to talk about that. It should be like, to be engaging. Okay, thank you. So this is what is A/B testing. Okay, I'll come into what A/B testing is with some examples on that. So I think we can progress here now. So just a quick summary of this would be, for why we need experiment would be testing of the hypothesis. We may need it for product improvement, that is, the product is already existing. Then we may need to deliver small incremental changes with massive impact, which would mean that there are times that you cannot just change the whole product, right? So if you want to change just a user flow on the product, and you decide to create the new flow and deploy to every user coming into your funnel, you may mess up the whole product. You may discover that the product, everybody on that product, nobody converts. Then you may blame yourself. If you're lucky, everybody may convert or activate, as the case may be. But for here, in this case, it's basically to just make sure that what you are testing on a very minute user base, such that if you run into issues, you know you are not running into issues with your whole user base. Yes, you are clear. Okay, so Faith, I think you may want to unmute Faith here. Faith, do you want to say anything?
So Faith, if you'd like to speak, raise your hand. Let's unmute you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that's better. Okay. Ways of experimentation, right? So we've talked about the reason why we need experiments. So how do we experiment? We have A/B testing. Okay. We have A/B testing. We have funnel testing. Sorry here. Yeah, we have funnel testing. We have multivariate testing. So, and each of these type of testing, they have their own uniqueness, but they take their basis from the A/B testing. And that's why I said A/B testing forms the core part of product management. In fact, most of the work that you'll be doing as a product manager is to really test that solutions or the problem exists, or the solution you are providing actually solve the problem. And one of the ways you can do that, or the major way you can do that, is to always test that problem. So as a rule of thumb, never deploy anything to all the user base without testing. So you must validate that, okay, what you are deploying actually solve the problem, and you can do that by A/B testing. And A/B testing is simply having two cases of it can be a UI. So perhaps most of us here, we are digital product managers. So it can be as simple as two UIs with different colors. It can be as simple as that. It could be two UIs, one with one call to action and the other with two call to actions. It could be two UIs with call to action, one at the top of the UI, the other at the bottom, while the other you place them together. So it could be as that. So basically, before then, of course, you are not just testing for testing sake. You have a mental model you are modeling to follow that path. So it's not just for testing sake. So that is the A/B testing. So in all essence, it's a common user research method, which implies it's using UX to be specific, running two different versions of the products to determine which performs or converts the best. So for A/B testing, the major focus there is conversion. So conversion would mean that who are those people that how many of them are able to take the percentage of them that are able to take the core action that the UI was designed for. That is, or the UX was designed for. That's what we mean by A/B testing. Then we have the funnel testing, which also takes its origin from A/B testing. So for funnel testing, it's basically involves testing across multiple pages to see user flow through various stages. So what do we mean here? So in A/B testing, I have only two UIs, for example, and I'm testing on either call to action, either color. I may be testing on even the creatives on those UIs. So I mean, you may decide to test if on your landing page, the pages that had a lady smiling is converting better than another UI with a guy smiling. Or it may be, oh, you want to test that, okay, if I put a Chinese on my landing page, would people click? Or if I put a Nigerian on my landing page, would people click? These are just the basic things about the A/B testing. But for final testing, it has to do with you have a flow and you have, let's say, two types of that flow. So meaning that you are not just testing for just two landing pages. You are actually testing for the flow, the customer journey along those flows. So you want to see that which one has higher conversion rate. Like I said, the core metrics here is conversion rate. So which of them has the higher conversion rate at the end of the day? So it all depends on what you are testing. You may want to test that, okay, conversion may mean maybe negative conversion to you. Maybe the one with more conversion may be that, okay, you don't want to go to that part because that's not what you want to go for. But if the core action you want to do on that flow is, let's say, you have two onboarding flows. The first onboarding flow starts from a point, and the second onboarding flow starts from the other point. You want to test which of them has higher conversion, and you want to say, okay, if that one has higher conversion, then you want to take another case again and begin to test until you have a funnel that is the best you have. It may be the best in the market, but the best that solves the user experience in terms of the onboarding. Then we have another one, which is the multivariate testing. This is another case for A/B testing, but for this, it's different from the funnel testing because here you are changing multiple variables at a time. So like I said, you have two screens, for example, where you are changing, let's say, the colors. But let's say you are changing the color, you are changing the position of the call to action, the CTA, you are changing the creatives on that UI. So you are changing so many things at a time. So which most of the times may not be the best because it's harder to measure success in this way. But when you don't have enough time to do your A/B testing and test each of these cases, most of the time you may decide to lump cases together and put them into multivariate testing model. So the key to experimentation here is A/B testing. So I don't know if that is clear now. So this is a perfect example of what an A/B testing would look like. If you look at case A, you see the color there. look at case B, you see the color here. It can be as simple as this, and then this is A/B testing basically. So you want to see how many of them would click on, let's say, call to action on case A and call to action on case B. Basically, this is what A/B testing is all about. It's as simple as this. But like I said, if, for example, I have this is the starting point for a funnel, meaning that I have multiple UIs as a flow. Let's say I'm starting from A, I'm starting from B, and then I have multiple UIs, then you have that as funnel. If, for this case, you have colors changing, the position of the CTA changing, you have different creatives on this screen, then that will not be a multivariate testing. So now the component of good experiment. So what should good experiment look like? Of course, you should be able to define what the problem is. So you don't just change the UIs, or we don't just change the UIs because you want to change the UI. Of course, you should understand that, okay, it may be that, okay, you want to increase the conversion rate. It could be that you are looking at two call to actions, and you discover that users are clicking on call to action. I'll give you an example. It may be that maybe you have a UI, you have learn more on that UI, meaning that you have little information displayed, and you have learn more. Then you have the call to action. Just imagine that users are now clicking on learn more, but never clicked on the call to action. So you may decide to say, okay, this learn more, I don't want to remove it, but let me say, okay, I want to pop it up on them when they land, and instead of them clicking on that pop-up, instead of them clicking on learn more now, that they have the pop-up, they click on okay, they now go to the call to action and click. Or it may be that you now retain that one also and test it together with that the new version you have. It can be as that. So you must be able to define what the problem is, and a good experiment is then to solve real user problem. So the second part is the possible solution. So when you have the problem, you should be able to give possible solutions. Possible solutions could be a new flow, it could be a new UI. It may not necessarily be that, okay, you are even doing anything at the front end. It may be that your developer needs to change things at the back end. So, but at the end of the day, you have a solution that you want to test, because what you are testing is not the problem. The problem is basically for all the stakeholders to understand why they have to run this experiment. Why the possible solutions you are providing is to give them the idea of what the solution would be. So a valuable experiment provide one or more solutions that you believe will create value for the user. So here, your belief could be gut, which is not a good one. So, but it should be data driven. Most of these things should be data driven. So you should have data to back your claim. So if you have data, of course, everybody will key in. So the third part is the what is the outcome one.
So hi, Emmanuel. We lost you for a while. I don't know if you can hear me. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, sorry, I lost the network for some minute. Okay, yes, we have 25 minutes. Hopefully, we'll be able to complete this. Okay, so I was talking about the benefit here. So in that experiment, you should be able to tell the team, because here you are the leader of the team. So you should be able to tell the team what will be the benefits either to the business or to the user. So ultimately, if you're improving the life of the user, we want to believe that you're improving also the life of the business at the end of the day. So, but it may be that, oh, you want to focus on revenue, which is a business goal. It may be, oh, you want to focus on improving the user experience, which may not necessarily at the first stage tied to revenue at the end of the day. But of course, the businesses, except if you are a non-governmental organization or you are not non-for-profit organization, that you don't focus on profit. But most companies, of course, hire you to basically get them money. So most of the time, it may be you are solving user experience issue, or you might be solving the business focused issue, which may be a business goal at the end of the day. So one of the questions you need to ask, okay, for who am I going to deploy this process, this experiment too. So, for example, if you are talking about A/B testing, so you may want to say, okay, I want to do segmentation and say, okay, at this point, I'm focusing on new users. So you need to say, okay, am I going to run this experiment for new users, or I'm going to run this experiment for existing users? So if for a new user, okay, how many percentage of these new users should I put on this experiment? Like I said, it will not be wise for any product manager to put all the new users on the new flow, which has not been tested. So you may decide to say, okay, I want to put 20% of the users on this experiment, while on that 20%, 50% of them goes to flow A, while 50% goes to flow B, which at the end of it will be 5% to flow A, 5% to flow B, when you look at the whole user base at the end of the day. So then here also you need to define what the success is. The key part of experimentation and experiment design is defining what the success will look like, because if you just put together UIs and say, okay, let's develop, and you don't tell the team what the success looks like, they may not be able to really key into your idea. So the success here could be, okay, I'm focused on onboarding, then the conversion rate. So I want to increase the conversion rate by 50%. So it may be that, okay, my current conversion, or let's say activation of a new user today, it stands at, let's say, 10%, which is low, and you now say, okay, I want to increase it by 50%, which would mean that, okay, the overall conversion will now be at 15% at the end of the day. So this is clear from the onset that, okay, this experiment is focused at increasing the conversion rate to that percentage. Then the team can start from there, because they understand why they are doing that, why they want to embark on that experiment. And the last part, which is the learning and the iteration, which is very important. So setting the metrics is not just important, but also going back to make sure that you learn from what you've deployed, which most times, this is where most product managers fail. We fail to learn that, okay, I've deployed this thing. Am I learning from it? Or perhaps some things may be missing. Maybe you didn't put together the dashboard before you launch. Then after you've launched, they are not looking for dashboard to monitor. Then perhaps if that flow is bad, you don't know if it's doing bad or not. And of course, if you're not careful, those people you have on that flow, you may not get them again, because you spend money to bring these people into the funnel, and you are not able to convert them at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, you should be able to learn as quickly as possible, which is key to experimentation. Experimentation is not for it shouldn't take you a whole year to learn from that. Experiments should be designed in such a way, except for special cases, it should be designed in such a way that you are able to learn as quickly as possible. So this is the end of the second part of this. I don't know if you have any question. Let me go to my comment section. Yes, you're clear on that. Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure we have anything here. I guess I can move ahead and talk about the last part, which will not take much time here. So this is the last part of solution conceptualization. So here, how do you conceptualize solutions? So like we said, the core part of product management is understanding the problem. But understanding the problem doesn't really mean that there is a solution. So you need to create a solution, and you need to conceptualize this solution. And how do you do that? Of course, you have to activate the product thinking mentality. And product thinking mentality is focusing more on the problem than solutions, which would mean that the first question we ask during the course of this lecture will be, should I create the product before discovering my customer, or should I go for the customer discovery before product? So here it should be problem focused, which would mean that, okay, the users actually have this problem. So if they have this problem, you can have multiple solutions, and at the end of the day, you need to look at the best solution to solve that problem. So if the problem exists, there's always a solution to that problem. But a solution you can bring together a solution that never solved any problem, because you created a solution before talking about the problem. So one, the product thinking, which is focused more on problem than the solution. The second part is the product modeling by user mental models. So what it means is that, like we talked about an hypothetical user, you need to put yourself, empathize with that user and say, okay, how do they think? So here is answering the question, okay, how do my users think? So I'm dealing with a professional who is 50 years old. Of course, you cannot deal with him like let's say a teenager or a Gen Z. So the way he thinks is different. So you may want to design your product based on the mental model of that user. So another part you have to consider is prototyping. So prototyping is when you now begin to show that product, because conceptualizing the product, it can be in your head. You have plenty hypotheses, you've written plenty documentation so people can read through it. But at the end of the day, nobody cares if they cannot really visualize it and say, okay, how does this solve? So here you may want to go for low fidelity, or you have high fidelity, which could be functional. So at this point, you need your designers. If you don't know how to use prototyping tools, and if you know how to use prototyping tools, it can be as simple as just putting together things. It may look ugly. That is not your goal, because that's not the real product at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, it may have a click through. Users should be able to, maybe stakeholders should be able to click through. And of course, this is what you are taking also perhaps to the market to really test if the solution you created actually solve the problem, which we've been talking about. So the last part is maintaining rituals tailored towards problem solving. So which would mean that after creating the solution for that problem, that is not the end goal. So because most of the time we create solutions for a problem, then we just begin to look for bugs, not really iterating on that solution that has already been created. No. So yes, we can fix bugs and all that, but also we should always brainstorm on that existing solution. So we ask questions. Does questions like this problem, does this solution, does it really solve? So then people can begin to give feedback and say, I don't think this thing solves the problem. So you may come to the meeting with data, because, for example, it may be that, okay, for the company to be profitable in the next 5 years, you need to have a conversion of these, generating this amount of money. But let's say today you're having low conversion below that. So you want to say, okay, maybe the problem doesn't solve. I need to bring together another. I need to come to and maybe come to the table with another solution. Or you may want to change the whole problem, which has to do with that go no go. You may decide to say, okay, maybe this problem we are solving is not really in existence. Should we close down this product, or close down this company, or we try to reiterate on the existing product, or create a new product at the end of the day? Then we have the critiquing the existing solution. So you have solution, you have to criticize and say, okay, like I said, you need to evaluate if the problem actually solved. And here you also need to use the rapid use case test. So which would mean that before anything, even before you put together all your developers, all the designers, you may just quickly want to run some use case tests on users, on some set of users, to really know that, yes, this problem actually solved. And that has to do with what we have for that problem conceptualization. I hope I'm able to meet up with the time. So this is what I have for you today. Please feel free to pick up the mic and ask some question, clarification, and the rest. Thanks. Yes, I hope.
So, okay, guys, if you have your questions, you can start dropping them in the chat. If you feel
Yes.
like you type it out and you need to speak, raise up your hand and you'll be allowed to speak.
Yeah, I guess maybe you may want to give Faith the mic. Perhaps Faith wants to say something.
So, Faith, go ahead and raise your hand so that I can speak it.
Okay. Okay, great. We have questions here. I think. Let me start from Holy. Oh, I hope I'm right. Holy. He wants us to share more light on low-fi and hi-fi. So, so like I said, you have low fidelity and high fidelity. So, the high fidelity, I want to locate that. Yep. I think this is the. Yeah. So this is the slide. So we have the low fidelity. So it may not be like a functional or something that you can click. Just imagine that you have your solution is on a sheet of paper, for example. or you have a solution on maybe on Figma, it may be on InVision, it may be on any tools used by for prototyping, but perhaps you are not there's no colors anywhere. It's just low fidelity. So here you are not really doing much about what how to click through and all that. It's just showing what the proof of concept. So in here you can look at it as a proof of concept and say, okay, this is the solution I have. This is how it looks like. But in high fidelity, it's a functional one which mimics most time end-to-end flow of or the journey of the user. That is what the high fidelity. So high fidelity would mean that you can trust that yes, this what I've created, yes, that is the solution. That's what the solution would most likely look like. Why low fidelity will not really tell you that this is what the solution would exactly look like, but it can give you an idea of what the solution would look like. But in most cases, high fidelity, you can having colors, having the real UIs that the designer has designed that would go to the developers to necessarily have those the real, let's say the real assets. It may just be that okay, instead of you are not using any picture anywhere. So low fidelity, you don't have to use any animation, any this thing. You can just represent a picture by an icon for picture, but not necessarily putting that picture there. So in low fidelity, you are focused more on exact thing that is the solution is to solve. That solution is to solve. That the exact problem the solution is to solve. Why the high fidelity, putting into context more of the user journey, the user flow, how you want the UIs to look like, where if you click on any part or any button where it leads to, and that is the high fidelity. I hope that is clear on that. We also have okay, conversion rate and how to measure it. Great. So how to measure conversion rate? So we have two different ways of measuring conversion rate, depending on how you want to look at it. So you can have, let's say you have, let's conceptualize this. We have like 10 steps in your onboarding process. That 10 steps would mean that just look at your 10 UIs. So make it simple, right? You have 10 UIs in your onboarding flow. And users would have to go through these 10 UIs. So number one, you can decide to measure your conversion by what is the conversion from the first action they take, that is the first screen they see, or what is the conversion from each of the steps. So the first one would be, okay, at the end of the day, I have step 1, I have step 2. So 100 users entered on step 1, and I have only 20 users on step 10. So in this case, what I just need to do is to say, okay, 20 divided by 100, which is 0.2, that is 20% conversion, overall conversion, right? Then the other way of measuring it would be that, okay, from between steps now, I want to measure what the conversion rate would be. So from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. So let's take between step 3 and step 4, right? So on step 3, I started with 100 users. On step 3, I have 60 users. On step 4, I have 50 users, for example. Then or let's say on step 3, I have 50 users. On step 4, I have 40 users. Of course, I've dropped 10 users on this step. So what I would do is to say 10 divided by 50, right? So, and which would now mean that, okay, I have drop off of 20% there, then I have conversion of 80%, right? And that's how to measure the conversion rate. I hope I'm clear on that. I hope you understand what the conversion rate really is now. Please, what is the difference between KPI, okay, and metrics? Okay, great. So, of course, KPI is key performance index. It could be indices. Then the metrics is basically, so you have some metrics are key performances. So, but not all. This is how to look at it. All KPIs are metrics, but not all metrics are key performance. Can give the key performance. So what it would mean would be, let's look at that funnel we talked about, the conversion rate, for example. The conversion rate gives you how the product is performing in terms of onboarding. So in this case, it is a KPI and it is a metrics, for example. But you may also want to look at metrics in another way and say, okay, I just want to measure that, okay, this is not about the conversion now, I just want to say how many users got to this step. That could just be a matrix because it's not saying anything. If I say 50 users, how many users got to the last step? For example, it's 20 users. Okay, I've not said anything to someone. I've not really communicated anything in terms of performance. But if I say, and in that case, you can consider as metrics. And remember, I said all KPIs are metrics, but not all metrics are KPIs, right? So we need to get that right. So in this case now, if I just have, if I say 20 users got to the final stage, that's just a metrics. It means nothing. It really means nothing. But until I now begin to talk about it in a more contextual way, to now put it into the key performance. So the key performance basically is set by the product team to know what the performance of the product will be, to know if the product is successful or it's a failure. Why metrics help the key performance the KPIs you define to really say, okay, this is how they are performing at the end of the day. So you can have two matrices which you can convert them into KPI at the end of the day. For example, I can have how many users got to the 9th stage and how many users got to the 10th stage. These are two figures I have. They could be just metrics which we need to know. Then I can say, okay, when I deduct and divide, then they become a KPI. I hope that is clear. I hope that is clear. Faith. Thanks, Faith. Faith is still engaging. Yeah. Thanks. Yes.
Hello,
we have 7 minutes.
Unmute and ask your question. Sorry about that, Emmanuel.
All right. Good evening,
Okay,
everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, thank you for the class. Thank you so much. I really have. So sorry, you mentioned A to B testing. Yes, it's something I know before, and I was thinking A to B testing is same thing as alpha testing and beta testing. Till yesterday, I came across an article, and I realized that they are a bit different.
Yes.
So please, can you clarify what alpha testing means and what beta testing means?
Okay, so in product development, especially when it comes to software, we have stages of deployment. The first stage of deployment is alpha. The second stage of deployment is beta. And the third stage, most time, is the live. So the alpha testing is when you deploy your software or your product to internal team, for example. So you are a product manager, you have people within your team, maybe QA, they may be even yourself. So before they deploy to the beta group, they need to deploy to the alpha, which is most times maybe only you in that alpha group, or it may be you and the developers, which basically you will need to just test and see that what you expect, you have specification, you have document you give to them, that it met that document, that requirement. But of course, you are not the user. You have the user at the end of the day. So the beta testing, now going beyond the internal testing, taking a sample from, or a population from the user base and deploying to them to see how they react to this new product. So remember, the first stage is to test that it's functional, that what you expect was correct, and the flows you designed were those things that were implemented. While the next stage is to deploy to some part of the users, which in this case may not necessarily be beta. It depends on how the company wants to look at it. A/B testing may not necessarily be, because like I said, the alpha and the beta, they are two different stages. So you may decide to name it A as alpha, B as beta, but in software development, alpha is stage A, while beta is stage B. But if you want to name the cases alpha and beta, that may be correct, but in terms of context, we need to be clear on what the context here. So if A means alpha, okay, and B means beta, in this case, it would mean that you are naming A as beta, A as alpha and B as beta, not necessarily that you are talking about the stages of development or stages of deployment, which would mean alpha, beta before life. So we need to differentiate this. So if you are talking about A, B tests, alpha and beta, they are not talking about the deployment processes, but rather looking at them as naming A as alpha and B as beta, which would mean that in this case, you are just dealing with cases, not deployment stages. I don't know if this is clear to you. So you need to know what you are saying. When you say alpha beta, you need to know if you are talking about deployment stages or alpha beta, or you're talking about A/B testing. If you're talking about A/B testing, you're talking about cases. If you're talking about alpha beta for deployment stages, you are talking, it's a process entirely, not into the testing process. That testing is just for you testing the product and you deploy to part of the user to test the product to see if it's functioning or not, right? But which may not necessarily mean that you are dividing into two groups, because at the end, like I say, beta testing for stage B of the product deployment process could mean that you are taking 20% of the population, but you're not dividing the population into two. You're just saying that, okay, hello, the engineering lead or the team lead for the developers, help me deploy this product to let's say 10% of the users. I want to know that thing I designed, I've tested it. I want to know that yes, it is what the user are actually using. And if you go to Play Store has been able to do this properly. You will see some product, they'll tell you to opt into beta testing as a user. So if you opt into beta testing, you can see this is not alpha, this is not A/B testing now. This is not the process of A/B testing, but rather the process of the deployment stage. You are testing the deployment stage of that product. I don't know if that is clear. You can always go to Play Store. If you look at popular products, you see they have beta group. So the beta group will be that, okay, they deploy to you when they have new feature. Before they deploy to everybody, they deploy to you first. They could do A/B testing on that beta, right? But that is alpha beta testing on beta. That you can look at it that way. But it is clear that you need to know what we are talking about when we say A/B testing. Is it case of testing or it is a deployment process, a deployment stage? I don't know if this is, I talk, I think maybe I said a lot. Perhaps it is not clear. Just let me know if it's not clear. Okay, I still have, all right, thank you so much for the clarification. I have one more question. Please, Faith, go ahead. Faith has one more
Please go
question.
ahead.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Thank you so much. Yes. So for the A to B testing, let's assume there is a product already existing. I want to carry out A to B testing on the product. So does that mean, for the example you gave us, maybe we are using orange color on one and we are using yellow color on the other one. Does that mean some users will be able to have access to the one that has orange color, and some will have access to the one that has yellow color? Or is it that after some time, all of them will have access to the orange color, then they will do the analysis? Then after some time, everybody will have access to the other color and they will do analysis.
Okay. Thanks. That's a very nice question. Thanks for that. So for the A/B test, this is what you mean. So for this, right? So like I said, what you are trying to do is that you don't have answers to the problem. So what in the room as a product manager, the person that understands the problem is the product manager, and nobody understands the problem better than the product manager. Not even the CEO would understand the problem better than you. The CEO may understand the market better than you, maybe somehow, but you understand the user better. So here, you are here to help the user, and at the end of the day, help the company grow somehow. So for this case here, you want to test that, yes, between A and B. So you may have an hypothesis. You may have a current, let's say, current product that A has 20% conversion rate, but you felt that B here would have, let's say, 30% conversion rate. So if you now deploy, let's say, to 20, like I said, you are not deploying to 100% of the user base. That is clear. Except you're having you are just launching today. If you are having an existing product, of course, it's not a wise decision to deploy to everybody. So let's say you are deploying to 20% of the population. You deploy 10% to A, 10% to B of the 100%. So at the end of the day, of that 10%, let's say on A, you already have 20%. You are monitoring that as the baseline. You can call it the baseline. Like I say, you're talking about existing product. Let's say A is the baseline. Then you have the B, which is the new flow or the new UI you are creating. So let's say B now at the end of the day, has 28% conversion, meaning that B is better than A. You may decide to kill A and push everybody on B. That is what A/B testing is all about. So meaning that today you've moved from 20% conversion to 28% conversion. That's overall conversion. Then you start another A/B testing again and say, okay, I'm moving from 28 to 35. You create another version of that UI again as you start testing. The next version, you may discover that it's only 18% that is converting. You kill that because that is not what you want. Then you continue from where the B that you still have, which is still 28, and that's how you continue to test until you cannot test any longer, which I doubt if you will not be able to test any longer. You continue to test until, because the ultimate may be to have 100%, maybe in terms of your goal may be to have 100% conversion, which may be impossible. But of course, you will always have versions of that UI. I don't know if that's also clear. Is it clear? Yeah, okay. Sorry. Yes, it is. Okay. Thanks. We've overspent how many minutes? Sorry for that, guys. I think we're all right at this point.
Yeah, okay. I think we're good to go. So guys,
Yeah.
if you have more questions, kindly drop it. So if we don't have any questions coming by 2 minutes, we'll be ending this call. If you understood, please type you understood in the chat. And say thank you to your instructor for tonight.
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone, for having me. It's a privilege. I really appreciate it. And thanks for the good job you're doing at the Top Universe. Hopefully you have me maybe some other time. Thanks a lot, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. So I think there are no questions here. So no problem. We can call it a night. So I will drop his LinkedIn profile in the Discord channel so you can follow him on LinkedIn and connect with him. So thank you so much, Emmanuel, for the class.
All right.
Good night and good night, good day, good afternoon, whatever your time is.
All right. All right.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.